Hey everyone, it's Kevin. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be looking at LYNDI COHEN's advice on how to stop binge eating and how to stop snacking. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to speak with me, there is a link in the box below. I looked at two different videos. The first one is how I finally stopped binge eating, and the second one is why you can't stop snacking, 7 strategies to stop overeating. Let's start with the first one about binge eating.
I didn't realize that binge eating was just this natural reaction my body was having from feeling so deprived, so not allowed to eat all the foods that my body really needed to eat.
Let's talk about deprivation and forbidden foods for a second. What is deprivation? If I don't have chocolate and cookies for a year, is that deprivation? I haven't had my former binge foods in a while. I don't feel deprived. Those aren't forbidden foods, I just don't want them in my body. I know what they taste like, I've had them before, I don't need more of them. Maybe because they bring back bad memories of previous episodes and they don't taste as good anymore. One thing I found was that if I didn't have them in large quantities, they weren't nearly as good. There's a lot of reasons why somebody would want to binge eat. Pleasure seeking, it could be because they have positive expectations about having that food. Maybe they're trying to pass the time. Maybe they have emotions in their life that they can't deal with. There's a lot of reasons, and it's not just because they feel deprived. It's not because they have made a food forbidden. I don't tell myself that I can't have candy bars. I just don't have them. I don't have the need for it. I don't have the desire for it. I don't have the compulsion to go buy one.
But the binges became more and more frequent. They became more intense. It ended up getting to a point where I was binge eating multiple times a day.
I'm glad she brought up frequency and intensity because these are 2 metrics you need to use to measure progress during recovery. You don't want to just look at episodes. Did I have an episode or did I not have an episode? What you need to do is measure the intensity. Intensity is on a graded scale. You can either count the calories, you can have a color-coded system like I did, you can have a 0 to 10 chart. I don't know. You need to have some way of measuring that intensity because it's too easy to say, well, I had an episode. Okay, well, how bad was it? Well, it wasn't that bad. So even if you are having episodes of overeating, binge eating, you can still measure intensity and track progress.
Okay, tomorrow I have to be better. Tomorrow I have to...
I like this graphic that she has, binge, guilt, restrict. That's kind of how it goes. You binge and then you feel guilty, which is normal, by the way. It's normal to feel guilty about it. You shouldn't feel ashamed, but guilt is okay. And then you say, okay, I'm gonna do something about it. I'm going to go exercise. I'm gonna start a diet tomorrow. And then it starts over and over and over. I told myself that I was going to start the recovery process tomorrow, later. And I told myself that to make myself feel better about today's bad behavior. It was having my cake and eating it too. I could misbehave today and then have the hope of change tomorrow.
So all I had to do was actually let go of the control, stop dieting, and then my body would actually find its own happy, healthy weight.
Let's talk about the word dieting. What is dieting? To me, it is intentional weight loss, but it's an aggressive form. It's when you are cutting out food groups, you're severely restricting your portions, you're not eating enough. I'm not against intentional weight loss. Intentional weight loss is a fine thing. You have to make a caloric deficit in order to lose weight. Everybody knows that. I don't have to explain that. But when you're too aggressive and you're avoiding entire food groups, you're dieting, you're restricting.
There was nothing intrinsically wrong with me, but what it turned out to be was that my approach was just totally wrong.
I'm glad that she said this because she's right. There was nothing wrong with her. There was nothing wrong with her brain. Her brain developed habits. Her brain was learning, it just learned the wrong thing. Don't think that you are the problem. Don't think that your brain is the problem. You just have to retrain your brain. Your brain has to relearn. That's why I say that recovery is a misnomer. What you're doing is relearning. And her approach was wrong too. So she had the right idea, but she had the wrong execution. And the right idea with the wrong execution is still the wrong thing. You have to be able to execute correctly.
This is a story about learning to stop binge eating and regaining so much freedom from food.
Here's another word that we should talk about, freedom. What does freedom mean? Freedom for me means freedom from certain behaviors. It means freedom from the obsession. I don't have to think about it all day. I can think about other goals. I can think about other parts of my life. I think for people like LYNDI, it means freedom to have whatever she wants whenever she has it. That's more of an intuitive approach. fine. I guess I don't have freedom in that sense because there are certain foods that I still don't have. I have all the food groups, I just don't have really entertaining foods in my diet. I feel free. I can still eat generous portions. I'm not obsessed about it. I don't have to worry about binging anymore. That is freedom. That's like mental freedom, it's physical freedom.
One of the first things I did, and I can highly recommend you do it now, is sit down with yourself and create a list of all the food rules that you have in your brain.
Sometimes I had to eat after 6 p.m. and sometimes I did have a former binge food, but it wasn't a lot. And if I could, I stopped eating at 6 p.m. Why? Because I typically binged and overate at night when I wanted to relax. So if I just followed those 2 rules, I knew I was going to be okay. Obviously, there is more to recovery than just following 2 or 3 rules, but I'm not against rules if following those rules helps you achieve a certain objective.
The next thing you need to learn is how to eat intuitively. Now, eating intuitively basically means tuning into your hunger and eating when you're hungry, not eating because it's lunchtime or it's breakfast time.
Yeah, your body is brilliant. The problem is we live in a world with marketing and really convenient food, and portion sizes are out of control. And it's really hard to estimate how much is in a food. It's not like if you eat 500 calories of potato chips, your body says, okay, we've had 500 calories. It doesn't know that because the manufacturers of these foods know how to trick your brain. They know how to keep you eating more. They know how to make these foods unsatisfying. They don't want their foods to be satisfying. It's counterintuitive, but if they're not satisfying, you keep eating more and more and more. It's really easy to underestimate how much is in certain foods. So yes, your body is brilliant, but it's really easy to overdo it. It's really easy to overeat.
I want to bring them back into our life. Normally what we do with binge eating is we avoid these foods at all costs, and then we end up binge eating on them in private.
Should you bring back binge foods? I've made a video about this before. I say no. That's my short answer. There's no reason to, especially during recovery. If you feel like you're recovered and you have a normal relationship with food, then yeah, you can bring it back in small quantities. I never did. I don't feel the need to. I know what it all tastes like. I don't need any more. I've probably had 2,000 Cliff Bars in my life. I don't need another one.
Instead, what I want you to do is to become curious about the binge.
I'm glad she brought up curiosity because it's really easy to feel guilty and ashamed after an episode. You're not saying great things about yourself. You're saying, I need to try harder. Why am I so lazy? Blah, blah, blah. You know what that dialogue is. But you need to come back to reality, assess the situation, and be curious. Why am I doing this? What are the reasons for this? How can I stop this? You're not doing this automatically. There is a reason why you are doing it. There is a reason why you take that specific chain of actions and you get that result. Stop being guilty and start being more curious.
I know that seems like the only way to help get your weight under control, but realistically, that is going to cause you to binge eat again. And
she uses the word cause. Now let's talk about cause, because I'm not really interested in causes. The only thing that could cause binge eating would be a severe famine. If you went 2 weeks without eating and you binged, would that really be a binge, or would you be doing what your body needs you to do? I'm more interested in reasons. What are the reasons you consistently perform this behavior? Reasons are like, I feel lonely, I can't manage my emotions, I like the pleasure, I like the escape. Those are reasons. For me, mine was always fear. What am I gonna do without this? How am I gonna live life without this? Okay, so now I need all this food. It was the fear of missing out. That was one of the big emotions that I couldn't handle. What am I gonna do with 3 or 4 free hours? I don't know, there's like tons of things you could do. But at that time, that was my thinking. So that was a reason. I don't know what to do with 3 or 4 hours, therefore I'm just gonna go to Chipotle in the grocery store and have fun. Now let's look at the second video about snacking.
You finally get the chance to eat. It feels like you can't stop eating. One snack turns into 500 snacks. Next thing you know, you've eaten the whole pantry and you don't even know what happened.
Have you ever binged or overate and you thought to yourself, what just happened? What did I just do? There's an empty bag of chips, the ice cream container is empty, the box of cookies is empty. You weren't even noticing. You were using food as a form of escape. You were using it to distract yourself. It was kind of fun. But then 30 or 45 minutes later, you find yourself with empty candy wrappers on your table and you're thinking, what did I just do? You were on autopilot. And the opposite of autopilot is self-awareness. This is one of the keys of recovery. You have to become self-aware. You have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that's not something that you can do in one day. It's gonna take practice. You have to learn to observe yourself and become more self-aware. Autopilot is not a good thing.
When you allow yourself to get too hungry, your body kind of ticks over into a primal state.
I know what that primal state feels like when you're really agitated and you're moving really fast and all you're thinking about is the food and the reward and, oh, this is gonna be so fun. But again, if you're in a primal state and you feel like binge eating, it's probably not because you need all that food. It's not because you are physically depleted. Usually it's because you are emotionally depleted and you don't know how to deal with certain emotions.
You're tired, you're exhausted, maybe you're a little bit stressed, and that certainly doesn't help.
99% of the time, binge eating isn't physical. You're not doing it to satisfy physical wants. It's more emotional wants. If you've skipped a couple meals and you've gone 9 or 10 hours without eating, you don't need to binge eat. If you find yourself binge eating when you're tired, stressed, lonely, bored, whatever, that is emotional mismanagement. As adults, you have to learn to manage certain emotions. It's a part of life, and it's becoming one of the great challenges of the 21st century. We live in a very complex, fast, stimulating world. How do we maintain our mental health in a world like this? This is why we need more therapists and more mental health professionals. Mental health is going to be a big problem in the 21st century. In fact, it already is. But one of the greatest skills you can have as an adult is emotional management. How do you manage these emotions? You can't avoid them. They're a part of the human experience. If you want to have the highs of life, you have to have the lows.
You ever have that feeling when you finish a meal and you think, oh, I could keep eating more?
If you feel like you need to eat more, ask yourself, do you need more because you want more or do you need more? If all you had was a salad with 2 cherry tomatoes, you probably need to eat more. If you had a satisfying meal and you just want more because you want more and you don't know what else to do, you probably don't need more.
Arriving home and we're ravenous, so if we can actually eat something before we walk through that front door, we might be preventing ourselves from over-snacking.
There's a difference between need and want, and you have to be able to distinguish between the two. When it comes to food, especially during recovery, eat what you need, not what you want. Let's talk about willpower for just a minute here. Willpower keeps you going, won't power keeps you from doing something. Willpower is great when you're exercising. That's when you need willpower. When you have a bunch of plates on the bar and you're lifting it, that's when you need willpower. Won't power is you're at home, you're alone, and there is ice cream in the freezer. That's when you need won't power. That's when you need compelling reasons not to do it and to keep going. Transition times like commuting, those are the worst times because you're going from one state to another. For me, it was coming home at the end of the day. That was a transition time. Very vulnerable moment. For others, it could be waking up, it could be going to bed, it could be leaving for school, it could be coming home from the gym, I don't know. There's tons of transition times, but that's when you're the most vulnerable, when you're going from one thing to the next. This is why you don't need a lot of willpower. You just need to focus on those 1 or 2 moments of the day when you're the most vulnerable.
Imagine there's a scale from 0 to 10 that allows you to rank your hunger, okay? 0 is when you are ravenous, you are empty, you have no fuel left. And 10 is when you are stuffed full.
Will a hunger scale work during recovery? Maybe, but the thing is, when you're in recovery, a lot of times you're not eating because you're hungry. You're eating because of something else. You're doing it because you want the pleasure, you want the escape, you want the entertainment. If you're a physiological eater, a hunger scale is great. And your goal should be to become a more physiological eater and a less emotional eater. That's the big limitation of a hunger scale. So even if your hunger is only a 1 or 2, you could still find a reason to binge eat. You could still find a reason to have a Snickers bar. It's like when you go to a restaurant and they bring the dessert tray and you find that second stomach. You know, your hunger at that point is probably like a 1, but you still find room for dessert. If you can follow a hunger scale for the rest of your life, that would be great.
Chances are you're probably gonna keep eating because you're so hungry and end up about a 9.
Oh man, I remember eating peanut butter out of the jar. A lot of bad memories with peanut butter. If you've ever binged on peanut butter, write peanut butter in the comments below.
What you need to stop doing is trying to be good.
The paradox of weight loss is the more you focus on it, the harder you try, the worse the results. If you want to lose weight during recovery, fine. It shouldn't be the focus, but you need to focus on the behavior in the episodes. If you can limit the frequency and intensity, those words again, of those episodes, you're going to lose weight.
Stop trying to be good. Stop trying to eat less.
Sometimes to get a better result, you need to try less and relax more.
Say, I'm not allowed to eat sweets, I'm not allowed to have chocolate, I can't have fatty foods. You end up craving them more.
This is classic intuitive eating. If you don't have something for an extended period of time and then you have that food, you're going to binge on it. I've never experienced that. My question is, how frequent do you have to have a food to prevent binges? If you go a year without chocolate, will you binge on chocolate after a year? I doubt it. Your cravings don't build and build just because you don't have a certain food. In fact, I found the opposite. If you go an extended period without something, those cravings tend to die.
More of. Naturally, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be crowding out the unhealthy foods by crowding in more of the good stuff, the stuff that makes you feel good.
I'll admit, Lindy makes good meals. Those look like solid meals to me. I would eat all of that.
Is don't beat yourself up over it. You know,
how do you recover from an episode? Beating yourself up, negative self-talk, these are natural reactions. It's okay to feel bad. You're not going to feel great, but you need to come back to reality, observe the process, and figure out what you're going to do differently next time. Again, like she said, be curious. What are the reasons I'm giving myself? What's my approach the next time? What do you think of Lindy's tips? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to speak with me, there is a link in the box below. If you liked this video, I'm sure you'll like one of the other videos that you see on the screen. Click one of them, and I'll see you there. And as always, eat the way you're designed to.